Welcome to the Healers Café, conversations on health and healing with Dr. Manon.
So welcome to the Healers Cafe, and today I'm really excited because I have with me Dr. Brindusa Vanta, and she's a Romanian doctor who came to Canada and did everything and was waiting for her residency, which was like a 10-year waiting list, more or less. And in that time, she ended up going to the Ontario College of Homeopathic Medicine in Toronto and changing the course of her understanding of health and healing. So please share a bit more and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. And thank you for the introduction. By the way, I love your work. And yes, what happened to me is I graduated from a top medical school in Romania in 2001, and then I moved to Canada. And it's a lengthy process. So it takes years, sometimes up to 10 years, even 14 years, I know somebody. So after you're doing all the exams, you're applying for residency, it takes a while until you actually get into residency. So while I was in that really lengthy process, something happened to me. I almost died from one single dose of a prescription medication, and that was an antibiotic. And this is ironic because antibiotics can save lives, but some people get really bad reaction, and this is what happened to me. So I remember, being sick in the hospital and questioning, is there anything that I can do to reduce or even eliminate the need of taking prescription medication? And that's why I started to explore different options. And I was looking to actually be a naturopathic doctor like you. And then I was contemplating either naturopath or homeopath. And at the end, I chose to go to take an advanced program for physicians at Ontario College of Homeopathic Medicine. And I studied nutrition and homeopathy. And later on, I got involved in research studies, and that's a whole different world because there is so much research on natural medicine. There are so many studies confirming the benefits of it. So I love that part. I got familiar with Ayurveda, so I did explore different options because in natural medicine offers so many options. You just have to be open to explore them.
Yeah, no, interesting. You're not the first who has an experience, with what we call conventional or allopathic medicine, and then runs into a problem, which then forces you to open, eyes, see what else is available. But let's go back. When did you know that you wanted to go into the healing profession? Because in Romania, you became a medical doctor. What was that story about as well?
Well, I think it must be a genetic component because my mother, my uncle, even my grandfather, so I'm the third generation of medical doctor in my family, and cousins. So I grew up seeing lab coats and hear my mom talking with my uncle about different cases. They're both pediatricians. And they also were open to natural medicine. So I remember seeing acupuncture, books on acupuncture and on homeopathy in my library at home. So what can I say? Conventional medicine has a lot of benefits in two areas when it comes to emergency medicine and when it comes to surgery. So like what happened with me when I had that bad reaction to the antibiotic, I called 911. I didn't try any natural supplement. I knew it's an emergency and I need to deal right away. And for emergency medicine, it's amazing. It's life-saving. The same way with surgeries. You need the surgery done, go get it. There are also a lot of lab tests and ultrasound and all kind of tests available that we can use. So for example, 2 days ago, I had the best compliment that I've got this week was from my gastroenterologist. I had the colonoscopy without sedation, and I actually saw my gut inside. So, and she told me twice, she said, look at your small intestine, it looks so healthy, and all the villi and the lining is amazing. She told me twice. So yeah, it pays off to eat clean food.
Yeah. Well, actually, why don't you share a little bit, about that? Because most people, don't realize how important, not just to mental health, to memory, to clarity, but to our entire immune system, how important the gut flora is and your gut health is. So I understand that that's kind of become one of your passions, and clearly
Yes.
you have the proof of it. And I'm sure it was a shock, because I'm sure that's not what they normally see. you know?
That's why she said twice. She's like, wow, this looks really nice and clean and like the perfect color, like the healthy color. So yeah, I had the colonoscopy, although I'm not 50. I had to do it early because I had some digestive problems in the past. And I heard 2 years ago that I have to live with IBS, and I have to be used to have flare-ups on and off. And for the last 2 years, I didn't have anything. So, and I didn't touch any prescription meds. It's only natural supplements and diet,
Mm-hmm.
really. So talking about the gut microbiome, because all my research is around brain health. And I've been involved in medical research for the last 10 years. And all the the recent studies are pointing out that the gut is very important for brain health. And it's very important for the whole for the whole health. So we have 100 trillion bacteria in our gut, and they make up the gut flora. And this gut flora is very important for a number of reasons for our health. So it's involved in nutrition and digestion. So basically, we can't digest foods if we don't, especially plant-based foods, if we don't have these microbes in the gut. So they help us digest. They help us make B vitamins, several B vitamins and vitamin K. Um, these gut microbiomes are sending instructions to the immune system how to function. And they also alter gene expression. So they have a big influence at our genetic level. And even more interesting, if we count the bacterial cells versus human cells, what research studies are showing is that we are only 43% human. We have human cells, and everything else are bacterial cells.
It's quite shocking. Yeah. Sorry, I think
It
we
is.
froze for a moment. Yeah, but it is shocking to think that, that we are in this symbiotic relationship with
We are. And
other
rather than
organisms.
fight and use antibiotics, which, we're developing now antibiotic resistance infections,
Correct.
instead of using a lot of antibiotics, we should, just uh, stimulate, just make this gut microbiome healthier.
Exactly. I mean, it seems so logical, and I mean, and it was even when Pasteur and Béchamp were having their discussion, do we kill what we don't understand fully? Do we get rid of it, or do we work with, improving what seems to be in our culture, in our medium? Do we make our insides um,
Yeah,
healthier? And it just seems like, well, of course, that seems logical, and
yeah,
yet somehow, the entire conventional medicine went the other route. It's like, let's kill the offender.
yeah.
It's
Or
interesting.
anti-inflammation, everything it's
Anti.
opposing, yes.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So you you've studied, obviously, the research, the brain. What what is your personal view, um, or views, because it doesn't have to be one, but what when people say, I want to change my diet, and you start Googling it, oh my God, You know, it's like you
It's
should go,
crazy.
it's crazy. You should do vegan, you should do raw foods, you should do ketogenic, you should do,
No,
like, it's
ketogenic is
endless.
overused. Ketogenic is overused. Should be reserved only for, let's say, advanced Alzheimer, Parkinson, MS, for epilepsy, like really for serious diabetes that is not well controlled. But
Like
really,
seizures.
ketogenic diet should be used and should be always used in cycles, never long term, because you can suppress the thyroid function, you can increase the reverse T3 hormone, and you can, it's not doable long term. Every time we try to manipulate a diet, it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So
So what do you mean specifically there? Like how, you know, because intermittent fasting is
yeah,
often
fasting, it's amazing. It's a very good, actually, ketogenic diet works because it mimics the benefits of fasting.
mainly
So
because
you're
of the fasting. I see. Mm.
so you're better off just doing fasting and let's say eat for a 8 hour period and fast the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
That is very smart. But with ketogenic diet, what I found and in my practice too is that people right away, so it's not sustainable. So they do it for a while, they lose weight, they feel better, the cholesterol improves, although some can actually get it worse. Diabetes can improve, and then they stop using it, and all of a sudden everything comes back and it's worse.
Mm-hmm. But do you feel that it's because of um, because most people will see the ketogenic as it's so low carb, and I've looked at, you know, that sometimes it's 100 grams of carbohydrate, sometimes it's 50. You know, it varies.
Sometimes 20 net carb.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, there's again varying theories on that, and there's varying degrees of protein that is the right amount of protein. Because if you have too much protein, that can
it
also
turns
throw.
into, yeah. So you need, it's a very low carb, it's a moderate protein, very high fat diet.
Right.
So you're very right. If you have too many proteins, that they're going to turn into carbs. You don't want that because you're going to get out from ketosis. My my biggest problem. So first of all, ketogenic diet is overused. So I like to recommend diet according to the season
Okay.
because we are part of the nature. And in the winter, for example, we have more needs for fats, and that's fine for fat and proteins.
Mhm.
And that would be, this is when you can do a cycle of keto if you want. But in the summer, it can just it can have a negative impact on your health and on your body physiology, because in the summer you don't need so many fats. You're overdoing it. So fasting, like you
Mm.
said, totally I agree with
Right.
it.
Right.
Yeah, slow carb diet is very good. So foods that have low glycemic index, so they don't cause
Mhm.
spikes in the insulin level. This is what I recommend a lot. And kind of paleo, like a low carb, but not to the point of being ketogenic. Yeah.
No, okay. So low carb as being carbs that have high fiber, like
Yes.
all your
Yeah.
kind of greens, all of that. But
Yeah.
you can eat huge amounts of carbs that have low glycemic index, right?
Yes.
You know, actually.
Absolutely.
It's just
Yeah.
that we're in a culture that eats, you know, bread and pasta and pre-made foods more than anything else, right? With a
Yes.
whole bunch of junk in it, usually, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So talking about gut microbiome, because yes, so it's fighting the bad bacteria too. So it can help prevent infection. Let's see, what is this gut, what does it like, right? This is gut microbiome, because if we understand what they like and we feed them, then we're going to be healthier.
Mhm.
And they love fruits and veggies a lot.
Mhm.
So an easy way, and also fermented vegetables. So an easy way to think about a diet, a good diet for the microbiome, would be 3P. 1P stands from probiotic, so fermented foods and drinks. The second P is prebiotic, so those special fibers that feed the probiotic. And the third P comes from polyphenols, which are plant compounds.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have these three things, the gut microbiome is going to be very healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you also have a healthy lifestyle, even the relationships are affecting the gut microbiome. So there was a study done, a recent study, that people who are in a healthy relationship have a healthier and more diverse gut microbiome than the single ones.
Mm-hmm.
So sunlight. So their exercise has an impact on the gut microbiome. Meditation, this stress management techniques, they
Right.
can have a good impact, positive impact on the gut microbiome.
Mm-hmm. And can you explain from a scientific understanding, why does meditation or exercise, how does it affect the neurotransmitters? Like, just to, from what you've seen, how this works.
They work in a different way. I just review, I love mindfulness meditation. I do 10 minutes every day, and I go once a week to a class. And what happens is it has anti-anxiety. So it influences the neurotransmitters like GABA, serotonin, dopamine, acetylcholine. So mindfulness meditation has a direct impact on these neurotransmitters. Another way how it works is there is a lymphatic system in the brain called lymphatic system. And this lymphatic system is doing the same thing like the lymphatic system is doing in the brain. Is clearing the brain from dead cells and damaged cells, and is bringing more nutrients to the brain. And what happens is, through my research and connecting the dots, I realized that mindfulness meditation actually improved the lymphatic flow in the brain. It improves the blood flow, which is also connected with the lymphatic system. So, and better blood flow means better oxygen, and more oxygen and more nutrients to the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So it works in quite a few different ways. And studies show that even 5 to 7 minutes, so even a short period, you don't have to meditate like a Buddhist monk for 10 hours. Even a short, um, if you have 5 to 7 minutes to meditate every day, it can help decrease anxiety and stress.
Mm-hmm. No, it's interesting, what you're sharing too, and how this information, when you go back to like Samuel Hahnemann and the roots of homeopathy, and also a lot of the enterology, like gut specialists, enterologists, there's such a connection between your state, your emotional state as well,
Absolutely.
and your brain health, right? And it's fascinating that in more integral or holistic therapies, they didn't really divide in the way that the Cartesian method really separates the mind from the body. It's seen as all one because it is all one, right? It's fascinating. Like, research is now showing it, but it was understood because doctors spend time with patients. They got to understand and know what
Mm-hmm.
what people feel, what their experience is, what their context is, what causes them stress, all of that, right? Which,
Yes.
you know, I know how you, having studied homeopathy, the understanding of the case study, like
I had such a big surprise. Like when I was in medical school, I learned that the mind and body are very much, they're very separate. You have a physical problem, go see a doctor. You have a mental emotional, go see a psychologist. Or if it's a doctor, it's got to be a psychiatrist. So this was my biggest surprise when I learned mind body medicine, like homeopathy, is that they're actually connected.
mm-hmm,
And we have it. That's why I encourage everyone, if you want to choose a medical field, go with choose the form of natural medicine, because it's really holistic. It's a whole body and mind experience, and it really works on a deeper level.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It goes beyond just cutting down the inflammation or the pain in a joint, it really it really can transform your life and your health.
So what was the like, I mean, I know we can't use names and you can't, but give me a story, like, or a case story that, especially at the beginning when you were, really trained as a medical doctor with the
Yeah.
mindset, and then you you started to see that there's a whole bunch of possibilities. What was the case, or something that comes to mind?
Okay.
Really?
I can say without name, I can say that was my dad. When he was in the hospital, I was getting the training at homeopathic college. So I wasn't really graduated enough. I wasn't, yeah, so it was before graduation. And I still had questions like, is it really working like Dr. Hahnemann is saying? And my dad had a heart attack, and I took him to the hospital. And by the way, for your listeners, I want to say that heart attacks do not always cause pain, chest pain. That's in the book.
Do not always? I didn't quite hear.
Do not always cause chest pain,
Right.
especially if you have diabetes, you have diabetic neuropathy. My dad didn't have any chest pain. I took him because I saw him was sick. So anyway, he had a heart attack, and he got something called ICU psychosis, which happens in about 1 in 4 patients in the hospital, where you just get totally you get psychosis because of it's ICU related psychosis, and it also can be from antibiotics. It was the first time in my life when I saw my dad totally going crazy and pulling the IV lines and screaming at the nurse. So it was a big shock for me. And what I gave him the only remedy that I had in my purse, because I bought it. I was for somebody who was going on vacation, and it was arsenicum album. Okay. And was one dose, and within a minute he calmed down, he started to smile, and he got relaxed. So that was or metal album, if you want to call it that way. So that time was when I said, well, this is working. Because the nurse was going to give my dad an antipsychotic medication to calm him down, and he didn't need.
No, that's interesting, because with a remedy like that, one would think, had you been able to take the full case history
I
before.
didn't.
You didn't? No.
I didn't even have the training. And by accident, that was the only one that I had in my purse, because it also helps for stomach foods, right? If you go on vacation, so it has multiple uses. So that's the reason why I had it in my purse. I didn't plan to use it, but if you look at the mental, it was kind of matching that picture of just being
right, and also the type of anxiety that could have been an internal, because with a metal album they have this internal restlessness too with the psychosis. So it's interesting. I mean, again, life has no coincidences, so it's funny like funny that you happen to have it, and amazing that you did, because the other route can be quite upsetting to witness as well. Wow,
and
that's a
my
very
practice, I've got a lot of good results with skin issues, with digestive problems, depression, anxiety, fibromyalgia, this sort of thing. So it really works. It works for a number of conditions.
So in my training as a naturopathic physician, there's sort of a subset of doctors that are now thinking that homeopathy has no credibility, that it's all placebo, that it's energy medicine. What is your view about that, and what
I'm smiling. I'm smiling because here is the thing: acupuncture is using energy too, and nobody is questioning acupuncture. So the point is with homeopathy, I mean, we use that electricity and we don't know how it's working either, but we're using it. And sometimes if it can hurt by my help, try it. Now, this would have been my answer many years ago. Now there is a lot of research studies, and especially in India and in Asia, in some other Asian countries, and studies do show that you have a physical effect from those homeopathic remedies. So you have less inflammation. You have there are studies done in dogs and children.
Yeah.
How can you use placebo in dogs and children?
Yeah.
And even plants. I mean, of course it works. Do we know exactly how it works? We have some theories, and we need more research. But when you get to a point, and this is a very simple philosophy I have. If it can't hurt but may help, try it.
Yeah.
I think because with herbs like regular herbs can interact with medication. So I'm very careful. I use a lot of herbs now. And I always have to look for drug-herb interaction because they can interact. But with homeopathic remedies, if they're diluted beyond like 38 or so, 12, even 12, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think, I mean, that's the same because in my training, I did specialize in homeopathy because it resonated with me as one of the most holistic of all of, of the things that we learned. And that's always been an interest for me, how the mind and the body work together. And also the connection to really listening to your patient. It's not just doing something. It's also really deeply understanding, which I think is an art that is being lost. I know now that many medical doctors don't even do physical exams anymore. They rely entirely on all these diagnostic tests, but the tests are only a piece of the picture. They don't tell you why. They don't get to the root necessarily, right? It's maybe it might light up an aspect, but it's an aspect. It's still looking at everything as if we're all separate parts, and I find that, at least in my practice, I found that the most, it's very depressing because when you have a diagnosis and they have this idea of what the prognosis is, because it's based on not much they can do, it's like, it's disease management. It really isn't about getting to the root cause. It's not about.
Yeah. I see another problem actually there. So not enough time spent with the person. But what I don't like is that, okay, let's focus on what I like. What I like about natural medicine is that we empower our clients and our patients to take control of their health. And this alone, like when you take a proactive role in your health, you're going to see a lot more benefits than if you're just sitting in a passive role and take the drugs as directed. This is very old school. So, and there is a lot of research on this topic. They did research studies who's doing better than others having the same disease. And there is this mindset where, okay, you use tools, you use treatments, but you realize that your health is in your hands. And this is very empowering, and natural medicine practitioners and doctors do recognize, and they work with their patients and their clients. Yes. So it's very empowering, and I think it's very helpful. Versus, just go and take a pill, go home, and don't ask any questions, kind of thing. Because you really don't have time in 5 minutes, in a 5-minute consultation.
No, and it's not the, a lot of my friends are medical doctors, and it's not personal. It's a systemic problem where...
Not their choice, yes, absolutely, yeah.
And now, some of them say that we're just pharmaceutical peddlers. And now also looking at research, this is something that that's definitely not my forte, and it's not something I've focused on other than reading, what comes up whenever there's something I need to learn. But I did not realize quite how in a sense, how biased research can be. I didn't know that.
You can't rely on a study alone, even if it's a double-blind, placebo-controlled, considered gold standard. If it's funded by a beverage company, the biggest one, how reliable can be that study if it's telling you that high carb it's okay?
Right.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'd rather focus on a small study. Let's say, not sophisticated. It was 100 people. If that study makes sense to me and I put together what I know from physiology and other knowledges that I have, then that has more value to me, that small study.
Yeah, and I think that's it's interesting that you share that, because that is really a mindset shift as well. When like the naturopathic profession is wanting to be, which is on some level, sure, science based and evidence based, and
Good.
it's good, and we need to understand what is this, so inside that there's a whole understanding of I was doing my master's in law and medicine, so I was looking at sort of the politics and the flow of money and who funds what and Monsanto and
You
so
got the answer.
yeah, well, that's it. And I did not realize, because I'm an optimist, and I did not realize that it is very interesting. Yeah, money has a big say in what we find out, and even what we can find on Google now. It's yeah, it's interesting.
Absolutely.
So, okay, our time is almost up. I did want, I don't know if it's too big a subject. I'm looking at all the things you talk about. But CBD oil or medical cannabis, is there something you can say in 3 minutes that makes justice to this, or?
Okay, so Project CBD, I think, or CBD Project, is a really good website that I can send all your listeners. So the quality and the brand really matters. Okay, because there are a lot of brands out there that aren't good, and it's not the quality, it's not, so preferably local. You want from local, because during the transportation you may some of these ingredients may become inactive. So preferably local, high quality, third party tested. It's really important, the brand, because it's not regulated. Natural supplements are regulated. So number one, the brand. Number two, see a doctor if you take a lot of medication, diabetes, high cholesterol, heart diseases, because CBD can interact with them, and marijuana as well. The best way to take both CBD and medical cannabis is to actually exercise and have a clean diet, because both exercise and the diet, some foods in the diet, affect the endocannabinoid system. Okay, so we have a built-in an endocannabinoid system that these herbs like medical THC and CBD interact with. And that's the reason why they are so effective, and they can work in so many organs in our body. So it's really good for mind and brain, and for especially for stress, for sleep, for anxiety, for CBD, for digestive problems, for pain, fibromyalgia, IBS, that sort of thing, headaches. It works very well. It works as an antibiotic too, CBD oil, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, it can save lives. It can work against those bugs that are resistant to antibiotics, so superbugs. So researchers are looking now to actually combine antibiotics with CBD to make it more effective.
Wow, that's interesting.
CBD oil works better and both the CBD and the medical cannabis is when you do other healthy lifestyle changes, because they have an impact on your endocannabinoid system too, just like these herbs.
Yeah.
And the brand is important. Yeah. And also drug herb interactions is important. If you have any let's say contraindications would be for medical cannabis if you're trying to become pregnant, okay, because it can cause infertility, so be careful with that. For heart diseases, and if you have any history of psychosis, like it can aggravate schizophrenia and other things, the high THC doses. Other than that, workout, not everything comes in a bottle. If you combine different modalities, you're going to get more benefit from cannabis than if you just take it, the pill and go and eat some fast food and expect to work. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
So, or it's going to be you're going to have limited benefits. So the best way is to actually do other things that stimulate the endocannabinoid system that we have.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, because that was a bit my, in BC it's legal, and I know that when it became absolutely legal, our clinic was bombarded with calls like prescribe, and our governing body decided that we can prescribe drugs, but we can't prescribe cannabis. And I thought, that's a weird decision, but I can see, though, on some level, it was like, it's the quick fix belief system once again. We're going to quickly fix it. And holistic approach, don't just take that, look at what you eat, exercise, move. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and by the way, talking about prescription meds like CBD oil, there is a synthetic version that was approved for rare forms of epilepsy. So pharma companies do acknowledge the power of CBD. And there is also a synthetic THC.
Yeah.
It's been around for quite some time, and there are a few of them. So, and something, they don't work as good as the natural ones, and they tend to have more side effects, by the way. This is what research studies are showing. So go with the natural, but go to a clinic and get somebody, a cannabis specialist, to recommend you, because the ratio between THC and CBD is different, depending on the condition that you have.
Right.
Some of them are more sedative. Some of them are giving you more energy. So it's really, you have to talk to a specialist.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been a really wonderful share and learning about what you do, and also your research knowledge. So thank you for sharing. And just before we close, is there? So you have do you have a website or or resources that we could share with the audience, like on whether it's cannabis, whether it's on anything that you feel would move the needle towards?
So it's drvanta.com. So it's my last name with a DR at the beginning. So drvanta.com. And it's going to have you have the option to take a free quiz from me, and you have the results there. So basically, I have a 20-question quiz asking how is your the health of your brain. And don't be surprised if I ask questions related to your digestion, because you have two brains. So I take care of both the main brain and the second brain that is in the gut. So don't be surprised if some of the questions will be related to if you have digestive symptoms, because I look at both of them.
Great. Okay, so I'll put that, and then if you have, if you want to send along, you mentioned a couple research, and also the one on synthetic versus natural. If there's anything you can share, just send it along.
What happens in the section where I have cannabis, I have a cannabis section, and I talk about endocannabinoid system that we all have built in, and I have 2 articles there. And the references are right there. So I have the links to the studies for everyone who's interested to know more about. And also the antibiotic, the CBD oil as an antibiotic, I have in the section with cannabis.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, great.
So for people who want to read more, I have long, actually I'm trying to make my articles shorter, but I have long articles. And if you want to read more, you have the links to the research right there.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. It was fun.
Okay.
And I hope our conversation helps other people to make the decision if they get into natural medicine, into medical field. Just explore. Before you make the decision what you want to do, explore different options, and you're going to be amazed to see, how many options you have.
Yeah. Okay.
And all of a sudden, a condition is not like there is no solution. You
Right.
find more than one solution for one single problem.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's taking it out of this idea that we're,
Exactly.
we're victims to only one thing, and
Yeah.
the world
And
is
that
full
one
of,
is not working, so, bad
yeah,
luck.
yeah,
Yeah, so you, in natural medicine, you have a lot of options.
yeah. Okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us at the Healers Café with Dr. Manon. For more information, go to drmanonbolliger.com.